Uh-oh. Bear with us for a technical... Oh, yeah, go for it.
Can you hear it?
Put it up here.
You have to give me text. Okay. So, let's go. A little bit. That song is called Vibrant Thing. So right now you're having a cultural moment. Okay? It's Q-Tip from the 90s. And this is what I make my kids listen to. Okay. So, we couldn't figure out how to build that in. Good morning. So my name is April Love. It is an old Pat Boone song. You aren't old enough to know that, but it is an old Pat Boone song. I will not sing that for you. So I'm going to make a few disclaimers. Thank you, Joel, so much for this opportunity. I want to thank Rich Gillum, who couldn't be here today, who was the person who exposed me to Creative Mornings, and I'd like to say officially, I think I found my new volunteer group. So now I'm going to give you a couple of disclaimers. I plan to be great this morning, but I may only be good for the following reasons. I'm older than I look, so I might forget something. I spent all night in the hospital with my father last night. I'm really nervous, but my colorful fit will fill in the gaps if necessary. You know the children say fit because they're too lazy to say outfit. It took me about a minute to go, fit. What is fit? Fit. Outfit. Oh, fit. Okay, I got it. So again, a little slow, but now I understand that fit is short for outfit. I didn't know that. So I would not be a good teacher if I didn't start with the definition. What is vibrant besides an outfit with every color in the rainbow? It's being full of life, energy, and enthusiasm. And if teaching is a lifelong passion project, you've got to have life, energy, enthusiasm, and maybe coffee. My original why is because I love to learn and teach, just like my fellow speakers and my new friends, Megan and Jose. My newest why is that my current students believe community service is a punishment, not a citizen's duty. We'll talk more about that. I want to introduce them to the concept of volunteering. Volunteer, not voluntold, like sometimes I have to do in the class when you don't raise your hand. I want you to know that this picture, and I'm not sure how the images are of how you can see that, but the other picture to my right or left, wherever that is since I'm facing you all, is the chief of police. I work at Connections Academy, which is an alternative middle school. So the chief of police has taken us on, and she has agreed to let us, she has come, in fact, she's coming in a couple of weeks, next week to bring pizza and some of her officers. Why is that important? Because the people that I serve are working on building healthy relationships with the police, building healthy relationships with adults. So my topic today is vibrant opportunities and experiences yield vibrant relationships. So, just like any good teacher, I've got lots of pictures, so I'm basically going to tell you why this is important. And I'm going to step over here. This is my third grade teacher. Well, I'm 52, so that's a real big deal. I see my fifth grade teacher quite a bit. She taught me how to build relationships with my students for life. Proof. This is my kindergarten student. Yes, she's pregnant. In fact, she's now had 3 children. I've been to the high school, the graduation, the job searches, all of that. This is my other kindergarten student who is now a parent. So I have to thank my teacher, Miss Allen, for teaching me how to do that. This is my third grade teacher at my wedding, who happened to have the same anniversary, and I didn't know it. Just another example of that powerful relationship that started when I was 9 years old. And we all know teaching is hard work. These are some children that I mentored their first year teaching, and they are now APs and Teachers of the Year. So I do kind of like this thing called teaching. And the other picture you can't see in the bottom is when I look really cute at a prom, and I can no longer wear that dress. A lot of times, teachers live in bubbles. Are there any teachers in the room besides our... Great. So teachers, shout out to teachers. Teachers tend to live in bubbles, whether it's a grade level bubble, a content bubble, or a school bubble. And we receive so much communication. Sometimes we miss opportunities, or we never hear about them at all. And that little picture is my baby in the sunflowers. So, teachers, we like money, we like gifts, but we also like to learn. So there's some paid opportunities like Summer STEM, where Megan and I bonded on one of her friends, Jess. Then there's also the opportunities to work at different places that you as a teacher may not have thought about. The North Carolina School of Science and Math was looking for teachers to teach courses. I didn't know that until I went to the Museum of Science one night and found that out. So a lot of times, teachers, we have to get out of our bubble. We have to share information because there's a lot of money out there and learning at the same time. There's also a lot of great credit and free curriculum. Megan just went to her first, North Carolina NCAT. We call it NCAT, North Carolina Center for Advancement. Raise your hand if you've been to NCAT. If you have not been to NCAT, you definitely need to apply to do that, and we can talk about that later. I'm also a guest speaker at NCAT as well as a participant. And Participate Learning, another way to make some money. So I'm going to show you quickly how those work. Summer STEM is my favorite. Summer STEM gives you an opportunity to partner with local businesses as a business immersion, and then you can write a STEM curriculum and they'll pay you. You get an opportunity to have lunch with some businesses all the way from finance banks to hanging out at Martin Marietta and wearing a hard hat. So all types of opportunities are available, but you just need to know about them. And once you build those relationships, one night at the museum, not the movie, one night at the museum yielded all of these things for my students and myself. I met with Jermaine Powell. He is the person responsible for the mural on Hillsborough Street. And I'm the type of person that's like, hey, want to come to my school? So when I saw him, about 2 weeks later, he came to my school. So it's very important that once you make that connection, you follow up, because a lot of, smoozing, oh, it's so nice to meet you, I'd love to connect. No. If I take your picture today, we're going to connect. The other thing that happened was Spike Hoban is the creative director who created the commercial for Fortnite. That made me really popular for a little bit with my middle schoolers. But he also has his own giant 3D printer. And he showed us these things at the museum. And of course, I was like, hey, will you come to my school? And he came. The next time I went out, I met these two young ladies who work at the DEQ, which is not a restaurant. It is actually the Department of Environmental Quality. I didn't know that. And then I was like, hey, want to come to my school? And so they did. They gave us free curriculum. And there was an opportunity for them to come and talk to the children about the rivers and all of these things. So I didn't have to provide the hands-on experience myself. I just had to make that connection. That vibrant experience produced that vibrant opportunity, and vice versa. Also, I love the mountains. My people are from the mountains. Yes, there are black people in the mountains. My daddy is from the mountains of North Carolina. I actually went to Western Carolina. And these are pictures where you go to NCAT, like I mentioned before. So this was the reverse. I was at NCAT, minding my business, learning about PBLs, as Megan and I were talking about. And then I did what I always do. I wonder what's going on over there. And I was like, hey, what are y'all doing? And they're like, we're learning about participant learning and global teaching. What is that? That became my next job. So when I learned about that, I was able to meet this young lady that you can't really see in the corner. Her name is Maggie, and Maggie taught me into participating with participant learning. And then there's my participant learning project. And what happened was the challenge was to use the Sustainable Development Goals, find a way to connect them to the curriculum, make a project, and then first you had to do it yourself as a teacher. Pick your passion project. Then you had to engage the students. So I picked hunger. I'm not hungry right now, but I do like to eat. But I picked hunger because my students are always like, Miss Love, you got some snacks. I know you got some snacks. So I was like, there's a difference between wanting snack and hunger, so let's talk about it. So we really explored hunger. We talked about it locally, then we looked at it globally, and we basically realized that we're right down the street from the Interfaith Food Shuttle. So once a month, circling back to community service being citizenship, not punishment, we take our children out to volunteer to to pack groceries for seniors. And the cool part that you can't see is this is us at the bottom in the assembly line. And then later on, we actually drive over to a community and deliver the groceries door to door. What a great opportunity for my young people to understand that this is when you do it because you want to, versus a lot of my children who have been told to do it by court order. The other piece of participant learning came from my international teachers. So if you don't know about this program, participant learning also has a branch where the teachers who come from other countries are greeted by teachers who are here. They are veteran teachers. They're just new to the U.S. It is an amazing, amazing opportunity. And I took it to the museum. We went to the Festival of Lights, hockey game. So it's just an opportunity, once again, to expose and make those connections. And you do get a little bit of money, but what you get is so much more valuable. So my mother has given me the 2-minute sign. Yeah, I got my major timekeeper right here. So I want to thank you for the opportunity that you let me spend with you this morning. And once again, if I take your picture, I'm absolutely going to invite you to my school. And the only time I've ever been boxed in is when I stood in which you can't see, there's me standing in the box at the North Carolina Museum of Art during, help me, see, this is the age part. There you go, Art in Bloom, where I volunteered twice. All right, so thank you so much for your time and attention this morning. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Miss Love. Give it up again for April, Miss April. We're gonna hold off on Q&A until the longer portion. So if you've got questions for any specific teacher, jot them down, and we'll open that up in the Q&A portion. So give me one moment while I transition over. One moment. There we go. Okay. I'm going to move this out of the way. You guys don't want this. Do you want this? All right. So our next speaker was born and raised in Newark. Jose Manuel Cruz, the son of Colombian and Puerto Rican parents, has become synonymous with his unique art style, which he aptly calls Cola Rican. Through his masterful use of thick and thin line, vibrant colors, and an array of mediums, such as spray paint and enamel markers, Cruz breathes life into his creations, evoking a sense of energy and vitality. A true artist who refuses to be confined to any style or medium, Cruz has continuously experimented with different textures, themes, and platforms throughout his illustrious career. As an arts educator in New Jersey for 17 years and now in North Carolina for over 18, he remains dedicated to sharing his passion and knowledge with the community that has inspired him. Cruz's artistic mastery has garnered him international recognition. In 2016, his social justice piece caught the attention of the esteemed Smithsonian's Anacostia Community Museum in Washington, D.C., where it found a permanent home. Moreover, in 2019, Cruz showcased his retrospective exhibition at North Carolina Central University's Art Museum, leaving a lasting impression on the visitors there. Continuing his journey of artistic exploration, Cruz maintains an active exhibition schedule across the U.S. and abroad. With that, let's welcome up to the stage our next speaker, Jose Cruz.
Okay. So, first of all, I just want to thank Creative Mornings and Joel and everyone else and Ellen who nominated me to be here today. So I guess I'll get started because it's going to be hard to follow what April just did. But I'll start off with letting you guys know that with a little bit my career. So I started working with pictographs in third grade. my art teacher, Professor Bernard, what he would do is that he found out that I had some talent. So whenever I finished my work in my classes, the teachers would give him permission. I would go sit in with the 8th grade classes, and that's when I started doing pen and ink. And actually in 4th grade, I started doing watercolor painting, which is one of my favorite mediums, even though I don't do it a lot, but I teach it a lot. After that, I went to Arts High School in Newark, New Jersey, which was the first visual and performing arts school in the nation. And some of the graduates from there also be like Melba Moore, who was a disco singer, Sarah Vaughan, Wayne Shorter, some of the people you may know, Tisha Campbell from Martin, Savion Glover, the tap dancer, and he tap danced also in Happy Feet. That's all his tap dancing. And one of the most popular ones, of course, is Michael B. Jordan. So those are some of the people that I went to high school with and that I know. But I started my teaching career, and it actually took me 12 years to get my degree because I went to school full time and then I had to work. So I found out that after I got 60 college credits, I could actually become a substitute teacher. So I said, good, I can make some money and go to school. Only thing was that everything wasn't offered all at one time, so I had to spread it out within those 12 years. But I finally got my degree from New Jersey City State University, and then I wanted to go into teaching, but there were no jobs available. So I found a job working with the county, and I was doing the Hispanic Initiative Program, which was trying to get people off of welfare and getting them a job and trying to get them to retain the job. So there was a company called the Airport Community Base out of Newark, New Jersey. So I basically taught them a little bit about making their resumes and then getting them jobs, checking, make sure that they retain the jobs. So then the Newark Public Schools called me up and said, hey, we have a position open. So I said, okay, cool. So I started teaching, and then after 2 years, there was so many politics going on, I said, all right, I think I need to transition. I started teaching at an alternative high school, did that for a year, and then started teaching at elementary school. I did pre-K all the way to 5th grade, and then I taught 3 years at a behavioral health center. So I started as a case manager, moved up all the way to a senior case manager, which kind of helped me a lot because it was in an urban area, and that's kind of like where I grew up also. So from graffiti to canvas and from airbrushing. So I started out doing a lot of airbrushing also, and someone saw one of my hats, and this guy was like, hey, who did that hat for you? So my cousin was like, Jose did, my cousin. So I started doing that, and this is when like Naughty by Nature was out with You Down with OPP. So when that was coming around, I was making a lot of tips because guys would come in there and like, I want a t-shirt with a lady on it and this and that. So when the guy saw that I was making a lot of tips and I was making like $300 a day, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to start paying you by the hour. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna have to find somebody else to work for you. So I found someone else who was a graffiti artist, Too Sweet Hakeem. He started working for them and everything else like that. Now, as far as my teaching, I'm now teaching at James E. Shepherd IB Middle School in Durham. I've been there for 8 years. I was in Wake County for 10 years at Wake Forest Middle School before they transitioned to just Wake Forest Middle. I've been the art teacher, but like I always tell everybody, you got to make yourself accessible, and you want to make sure that your job does not deteriorate. So I did a little bit of everything when I was teaching. And like I was telling Megan and them, I said, I make the administration, of course, kind of like my best friends, and then the custodial staff. The custodial staff is very important because whenever you need something, hey, you just call on them. They don't have a problem giving you that opportunity and giving you what you need. So all that to say that when it comes to my art, I try to do a lot of my work in my classroom so that my students get to see that I'm working and that I'm doing something that I love doing, and that so they can also ask me questions. When they're in my class, I make sure that I let them know that it's not about me making you the best artist in the world, but it's about me giving you some skills that hopefully you can apply for the rest of your life. And when they have a family, they can help their kids out with a project, right? So, so that's that. Now, as far as some of the exhibitions that I've done, it's been a nice transition for me. My goal is hopefully to become a full-time artist so that I can leave the teaching to the side for right now and then be able to get my master's and teach at the collegiate level. But until then, I still gotta work. But I enjoy teaching because it's very passionate to me. I know that when I first started teaching, I kept telling myself, well, how am I become a teacher and tell other people about their art, whether it's good or not? And I don't know how I'm going to do that. But once I started, I think it came pretty easy. And I think that was the blessing that I was born with, and I enjoy it. But as far as the art goes and some of my new pieces that I have, I like to work in all different sizes. I started always working out very small, and I think that's something that with our students, that when we start teaching them, they always like to work very tight. And I like to make sure that they're loose. So one of the projects that I used to do, one of the lessons I used to give them a 1-inch brush, and then I used to give them newsprint paper, and we used to do figure drawing. And I would tell them that, you have 1 minute to do this figure drawing, and basically just teach them how to be able to see the line and then basically move in and out of the figure. And then we would break it down a little by little. I also had to make sure that they always worked from using their shoulder to their elbow down to their wrist to make sure everything in their body parts was being used. Okay. Some of the new pieces that I have are 4x5 pieces. So these are 4 feet by 5 feet. One of the largest pieces that I worked on was an 8 foot by 10 foot piece that I did for Wendy Williams. I did work for her for about 7 years, from art to photography. I'm also a photographer, so I try to do a little bit of that and incorporate that. I did my mentorship at Blue Cross and Blue Shield in Newark, where they actually had a graphics department. So everything from learning and doing, working with a stat machine to a typographer. And Russell Murray was one of my mentors there. He was the art director, and he was the only African-American art director that they had. And then at the time, they started infusing the computers, Mac and Photoshop and Quark Express and all that. So little by little, that dissipated. And he told me one thing, to always be versatile in your art. The reason was that if you want to make some money and somebody needs a logo, you can create a logo. If somebody needs a headshot, you can give them a headshot. Whatever it was, then that's something that I think helped me out as an art educator, because you have to differentiate, and you can get so many different type of students that are at different levels, and you want to be able to go back and forth, and as long as they enjoy it, and that makes me happy. So these pieces here that I have, this was my Don't Shoot series. This was after the Michael Brown shooting, but it took me about 4 years. So a lot of times in my process, there are things that happen, and I know there are artists out there that some of them jump on the bandwagon when something happens, and they create these political pieces, and that's great. It works for them. But for me, it may take 2 or 3 years, maybe a little longer. And sometimes I'll do some pieces and work on some pieces and let them know that, the music is going to start playing soon. No, I'm just joking. But that's something that I love to do. And sometimes I'll tackle political pieces, and sometimes I just enjoy doing my cultural stuff. From being a Puerto Rican and a Colombian, so trying to infuse all that culture that comes through my blood, I put it into my work. And like I heard someone else say, actually it was, I heard Billie Eilish say this a couple of days ago on NPR. And she said that a lot of us as artists need to stop trying to explain our work and express our work. So that's one of the models that I have. And like I always say, why be normal? I think art saves lives. So let me thank you all for your time. I know it wasn't as vibrant as April, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. You are just as vibrant. You are all vibrant and welcome at this event. Yes, thank you. Amazing. So we are going to go into our third speaker. Let me just do a little bit of tech stuff. Sorry about this. Okay. So our last speaker today, Megan Hill, grew up in Eastern North Carolina, and after obtaining her undergraduate degree in psychology from the College of Charleston and her graduate degree in teaching from East Carolina University, she moved to Raleigh to begin her teaching career in 2003. She is the Play Integration Curriculum Specialist at Powell Magnet Elementary School in Raleigh. Megan has 20 years of teaching experience in grades kindergarten through 8th grade, recently moving to Powell from Underwood Elementary, where she most recently held positions of reading intervention teacher and magnet coordinator. She has worked in magnet schools for the majority of her career and is passionate about arts integration and connections to nature. When she's not at school, you are likely to find her on the greenway, a trail, or on a paddleboard. Yep, a little connection for you guys to talk about. She enjoys reading, music, and spending time outdoors with her family and friends. Megan's play-losophy, which is not easy to say when you're trying this at midnight, resides in the idea that learning should be fun. Through purposeful play integration, students are able to collaborate, get creative, which we love, and take risks in order to engage in critical thinking about content standards. Play not only leads to academic growth, but also helps students grow their social and emotional skills. So, get out there, play, learn, and have some fun. Welcome to the stage, our last teacher this morning, Megan Hill.
And I have no cards. Awesome. I don't know. Is that good? Can y'all hear me? Perfect. Thank you. I'm Megan Hill, and I am the Play Integration Curriculum Specialist at Powell Center for Play and Ingenuity Magnet Elementary School. That is a mouthful, but at Powell, we nurture and build clever, inventive, resourceful risk takers through cooperative exploration and play. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my why and my journey, how I came to Powell, how we became the only center for play and ingenuity, and a little bit more about the work we're doing to build creativity through play. I love that everybody talked about their third grade teacher, because I'm going to start with third grade. I think that's it's a huge year. It's the year that you stop learning to read and you start reading to learn. Now, when I was in third grade, I had not the best third grade teacher. I'm sure that you can all remember like the great teachers you had, and then those teachers that maybe weren't so great. But third grade started out, and I had an old school teacher, and she was the kind of teacher that would do like round robin reading, where she would like be like, okay, you get paragraph 1, you get paragraph 2, and you bop around. And if you were too slow, like she would definitely skip right over you, and she would call you out for making mistakes, you know, and that was not good for me. I was not good at reading fluency. Writing was hard for me. Math was absolutely foreign, and it was really hard for me to memorize things, especially like math facts. So flash forward to the end of third grade, where we had a little bit of redemption. We had a collaboration. It was a school musical, and it was not my awful third grade teacher who didn't make me feel very vibrant at all. It was a collaboration between the Spanish teacher, the music teacher, and the art teacher. And we put on this school musical. It was called Don Gato. Some of you may have heard the song before, but it's about this cat about town who was up on his roof reading a love letter from his cat girlfriend when he falls off and he loses one of his 9 lives. Well, I was a little bit nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, what part am I going to get? Are they going to make me memorize all the lines? And when it was announced that I was going to play Don Gatto's girlfriend, I was like, you know, my cheeks were burning. I was flushed. I was going to have to memorize all these lines. It was a really big part. But the music teacher pulled me aside and she said, hey, all you've got to do is learn the songs. It's acting and songs. And if you put anything to music, I can remember it. So I was like, yes, I got up on that stage and definitely got a round of applause, mostly giggles to my dramatic performance over the loss of my cat boyfriend, Don Gatto. But I was vibrant, you know, I was full of life. I was excited about learning again. Third grade was not a total loss. I've spent most of my career sort of like based on those two, both positive and negative learning experiences, and sought out like education and professional development that aligned with my interests in arts integration, the natural sciences, and project-based learning. I think that at every school I've been to, I've found that children are going to learn best when they feel safe, connected, and they enjoy what they're doing. And so when I met the magnet coordinator for PAL, I was like, there's a job as a play integration curriculum specialist. This is amazing, right? And then and the more we learn about students and reaching and teaching neurodiverse students, the one thing I found is that if you can make it fun, there's buy-in, right? And you've got students engaged. And so how do you make it fun? And I'm going to go back to NCAT, and what April started talking about is that you do what you enjoy and you do what you love, and you seek out those opportunities to do that and bring that back into the classroom. And so this is a picture of some summer PD I did in Ocracoke, and we're actually like at Springer's Point where Blackbeard was captured by the Royal Navy. So it was really cool to be there and be like learning the history as well as some science. But we were collecting moss and lichen samples that we could go back and prepare slides and find tardigrades under a microscope and learn and study that and connect it to like the science curriculum that I could teach to students. We got to go bird watching. We got to excavate a logger sea turtle nest. I mean, that was amazing to see all the little baby sea turtles and then think that you were helping them. But then, you know, you go to these cool professional development experiences and you're like, great, like how do I bring that back to the classroom? What does that look like? And so I do a lot of summer camps. This is actually my kitchen. And these are students that are building habitats for their tardigrades that they found in moss samples that they collected from the Greenway near my house. And then we're studying nature artists like Andy Goldsworthy, and we're at the Walnut Creek Wetlands Center looking for birds and bird watching. And so we just sort of like practice that and think, how can we apply that to students and the students that we know and the schools that we're at? We went to Oakwood Cemetery, we studied the history, we wrote stories with, you know, names that we found on gravestones. We, built bamboo teepees for our peas and did nature weaving. And it's all like fun, and I enjoy what I'm doing. And if I enjoy it, then I know that the students are gonna enjoy it too. And then it translates into bringing those experiences back to the classroom. Here we have students that are looking at tardigrades they found from moss samples from our courtyard. And we have students that are using tools to study sea turtles. And then students who are building birdhouses to help the birds on our campus. So when I met Chris at Powell, and she was like, hey, all that stuff that you're doing, we want you to do that here. I was like, yes, I get to do this, actually? We can do these cool things. And so, and that's what brought me to Powell this year. And Powell started out in the 1980s as, they were built in 1964, and we are still in that same building. And in the 1980s became a gifted and talented magnet school. And in 2016, they rebranded, and a lot of times districts will do that to changing needs in the community. But that when they rebranded and became the Center for Play and Ingenuity, they turned a failing school into a nationally certified demonstration magnet school and a top 25 magnet school of excellence in the nation. So I was like, yeah, I want to be on that vibe, right? I want to be there. And what they found when they rebranded is that people learn best from experiences that are joyful, meaningful, socially interactive, and allow testing things iteratively. And so at Powell, we do that through creating opportunities that incorporate choice, wonder, and engagement, because those are really the core elements of play. And we do that through our core instruction. That's the instruction that you're going to get in any Wake County public school: reading, math, social studies, science. And then elective curriculum, which is more quarterly classes. They're like an in-depth study. So if you are very interested in orchestra or Lego robotics or dance, you can take just a quarterly class in that. And then domains are what are really specific to POW. They're semester-long interdisciplinary studies. I'm going to talk a little bit about Wild Allies. That's my passion. That's the first class I got to support when I came to POW. The teacher who was leading that course is a beginning teacher, and she actually came from the Science Museum. And because we are a research school and a Title I school and a magnet school, we have a little bit more flexibility with our funding and our programming. So she was like, I'm not sure, I'm totally comfortable leading this. Can you take the lead and then I'll kind of like gradually like come in. And I was like, sure. I've taught many birding electives like over the years, not by like choice. I feel like Helen's over there. I taught 8th grade at Explore with her. But I just sort of like fell into this and they're like, you're going to teach the birding elective. And I was like, cool. But I definitely collaborated with different ornithologists at NC State and kind of learned by doing. But we started out with kind of observing on campus and seeing like, what are the species on our campus? Who can we be allies to on our campus? And they decided, they saw a lot of bluebirds, and we have a lot of habitat destruction. We have a lot of new construction around our school, and they're like, we've got to help the birds. We've got to help them. So we started out making field guides and just documenting what we noticed about the birds and observing. And then it's the fun part, it's like the project time. So I've done a lot of random bird projects over the years, but I've collaborated with artists and done large-scale like art installations at school to teach about local species of birds. I've worked with the Walnut Creek Wetland Park to help create those bird guides. So if you were ever there, you can go and they like hang, the bird guides are there for you to use. But these guys were so amazing. They wanted to create bird houses and bird feeders and bird baths. So they came to the makerspace. We chose materials. We researched, we built. And if you want to talk about vibrant, like these kids showing their parents and community members these projects that they worked on, it was really awesome. When they had bluebirds in the box this spring, they were so happy and vibrant. A really funny story, Marcus, who's hanging up his bird feeders that he made with his group, they chose the place where they wanted to hang them, and they got to observe. Well, they were overjoyed when they were sitting in their class and saw birds visiting the feeders. And then the next day they come in and the bird feeders are destroyed on the ground and like in pieces. And so that led to more investigation. And so we called NC State and we said, hey, do you guys have some trail cams we can borrow? So we put the trail cams out and we saw deer. We saw deer frolicking with bunnies. We saw possums and foxes. That sort of led into our study of mammals. But they got really creative and they were like designing pulley systems and raising the feeders up to protect them. And then we had to finally settle on a solution of moving them to our protected inner courtyard so that the deer, who we caught like 6 of them on camera stepping up on the bird baths to like knock down all the feeders. It was very exciting. They were very vibrant. It was a lot of fun. We sort of adjust that curriculum and do a Wild Allies domain for the K2 students as well, and it looks a little bit differently based on curriculum needs and developmental needs, but you can see they're exploring animal adaptations through some arts integrated projects and studying, they're looking at owl pellets and studying skeletal systems. My favorite project, which I will leave you on, is this innovation inspiration. Our students this year got to compete in the first Lego League challenge, and this was a particularly special project for me. They have a robotics team, and they had to compete, go through this whole course and code robots to do different tasks and challenges, and that was new for our students. They came in 14th out of 16 teams in the Lego challenge part. But I was in there substituting this week, and every single one of them had mastered every challenge. It did not dishearten them that they got 14th out of 16. It inspired them to go back and make corrections and beat it. But the project that really touched my heart was the innovation team. And back in February, my nephew broke both of his legs skiing. He's a 3rd grade student, 3rd grade again. It's a big year, but he broke both of his legs. He was going to have to be in a wheelchair until at least June when he could begin PT, and he was very active. He played soccer, hockey, all the things. Well, my students were very touched by this, so they would every morning read jokes about sports and things, and I would text them to my brother, and my nephew would be so excited. Well, that sort of inspired their innovation, their project, and they answered the question, how can we as innovators create a game or exhibit for wheelchair users to be immersed in the game of soccer? And so they collaborated with game designers at Epic Games. They built a prototype. They went through many iterations. They presented their project through different forms of media, including creating commercials. And they got first place, y'all. They got first place and brought home that first place win. And I was like, they were vibrant, my eyes were vibrant. My nephew in New York thought it was so cool that they, had designed this project and won first place. And I'm going to take you back to this quote, is because people learn best from experiences that are joyful, meaningful, socially interactive, and testing things iteratively. That goes for us as educators, as teachers, as well as students. And at Powell, our tagline is igniting creative minds. And I honestly couldn't think of anything more vibrant than that. Thank you so much.
One more round of applause for all of our speakers this morning. Thank you, Megan. So not planned in this, but I'll share a little anecdote on the third grade teacher wave. My mom, who is visiting town and here this morning, which is pretty cool, knows this, but I similarly struggled with reading, writing, all that stuff, because the brain doesn't work exactly like they wanted it to work in school. But some of my most meaningful teachers, but specifically one in Vermont, I had for third and fourth grade, Miss Nino, who I have stayed in touch with still to this day, and she's seen my progression throughout my career as an adult. And a lot of that had to do with she would take us out of the school into the woods and enjoying nature, and she would engage us in the way that all of us needed to be heard and felt like we were important. And then, eventually I got the brain drugs, which helped school. That helped me a lot later in life when we weren't going on nature walks anymore. Anyway, moving on. Thank you to all of our speakers. We are going to move into the Q&A portion. So we're going to just kick this off. One second. All right. So we have a guest with us this morning. He's going to be moderating the panel, and I am very excited to have them with us this morning. So many of you probably know this individual. Dr. Terrence Ruth received his PhD in Public Affairs from the University of Central Florida. He received his Master in Education from Nova Southeastern University and his BA from Oglethorpe University. Dr. Ruth completed a national fellowship through Boston College with certification in nonprofit leadership. Dr. Ruth is an advocate for public education, once serving as a teacher, principal, and the parent of a son who attends public schools in Wake County. As a former administrator for Wake County Public Schools, who now serves as an education consultant to numerous nonprofits, he sits on several statewide boards as well. Dr. Ruth led social justice organizations at the national, state, and local levels with a reputation for being the implementation expert. He served as the NAACP Executive Director under Dr. Barber and Dr. Spearman, and has served as National Director of Programming for the Repairs of the Breach. Recently, he partnered with the United Way of the Triangle to launch a community investment fund for local community organizers. Dr. Ruth has worked in K-12 schools across Florida and in Wake County. Currently, he is a professor at NC State University and is the former president of the Justice Love Foundation. He's deeply engaged in diversity, equity, and inclusion work across the city of Raleigh and the Triangle. Dr. Ruth was also a mayoral candidate for the election in November 2022. And Dr. Ruth is leading a coalition of leaders to engage in local solutions through impact investing, design thinking, and creative collaborations. Right now, he is facilitating a process to increase the use of faith-based assets in improving the affordable housing stock. And he's also working with United Way of the Triangle to offer a human-centered design lens to the philanthropic network in the Triangle. We're very honored to have Dr. Ruth moderating this discussion this morning. So if you all would join me in welcoming Dr. Ruth and our three speakers to the stage for a discussion.
The benefit of being a facilitator, I get to ask the first question. But some people would suggest that small businesses are the veins of a city. And I would say that teachers are the blood cells that provide nutrients across cities. People make housing decisions based on the quality of teachers. People make neighborhood decisions based on the quality of teachers. And so my question to each of you, before big data and data analysis was a thing, the education industry was a big data collector. There's data around attendance, lunch, et cetera. How do you quantify the vibrant relationship that you exchange with students that is not captured in attendance data, free lunch data, graduation rates? How do you capture your impact in terms of building vibrant relationships that would end up in a picture that you had on your slides? And I'll start hearing with it.
Are we round robin?
Yeah.
You starting with me? Okay. So I think it goes to your text or your notes or the children. And my children, again, 31 years in teaching, the last group is the ones I think about right now, my children in my alternative school. The children who knew all the four-letter words except the ones I wanted them to know, who then write a note back. Hey, Ms. Love, I don't cuss no more. Thank you so much for this. I'm now in a better place. I'm now getting mental health help. Them taking the initiative to reach back out is priceless. And so we hang our hats on every note and email that we get from our students because they're only with us for the year.
Again, yeah, I think it is the relationship you build with those students, the connections you have, their engagement with the curriculum. I'm trying to think, there's a story from that Wild Allies group. There was a student in that class, and we were building birdhouses and designing them, and he shows up Monday morning, and he has a birdhouse that he's built with his dad over the weekend. And he said, you know, Miss Hill, I taught my dad all about this, and he sat down with me in the garage, and we built this, and I was like, man, wow, this is so awesome. And he donated it to the school and, you know, painted it in my classroom and hung it up, and then his family came and visited and saw the house. And I think those moments where you have those things happen, it doesn't matter the numbers in the classroom, it's that he took that home, and it meant something to him, and it meant something to their family.
Well, for me, I make it personal for me, not so much for the students, but I want to make sure that whoever I am dealing with, that they know and they understand that whatever they're saying to me, I'm going to take it. I'm not going to take it for granted, but I'm going to make the best of it to make sure that whatever feedback I give them, that is something that they're going to be able to remember, and that's something that they're actually going to be able to open up to me in. So my classroom is always their studio space. It's their safe place. It's their space to be creative. And I like to make sure that when I speak to them, that they know that it's coming from the heart and that it's not just something that I just want to say just so that they can get their work done. So.
Thank you. Now I want to open up the floor for questions for anyone that may have a question. I already have two hands in the corner. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Where were you guys when I was growing up? I would have got an A's. Oh, okay. On the serious side, I am curious to know, From your time starting out as a teacher today, what progress have you seen for accommodating K-12 students who might be classified or identified as neurodivergent? And from there, do you feel that there's more of an opportunity, but also more of a challenge for teachers to try to understand a wider range of brains short of having a neuroscience degree?
Okay. So we're all neurodivergent, and it's just to the degree. And what subject was that problem? So my third grade teacher, and I'm gonna say it the way the kids say it, gave me an F. I earned that F because I didn't want to do nothing. I had a bad attitude toward the math. It didn't like me and I didn't like it back. And she said, April, you can do it. You just have a bad attitude. And my mom was like, this is my mother, April, if you don't do the work, you're gonna get an F. She's not gonna give me an F, she likes me. She gave me an F. And she helped me understand how I think. And I feel like neurodivergent is kind of a fancy way of saying to all of us who are professionals, meet them where they are. And because it's a buzzword, there's a great opportunity for our new teachers to get on that bandwagon early and it not feel like an extra thing to do. So I see great opportunity there. And one of my summer STEM teams just finished a neurodivergent project, and the superintendent spent a great amount of time at their table. So there's hope.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, growing up and not knowing that I had dyslexia or ADHD, I had to figure it out myself, right? I had to figure out what worked for me, and I had to really work hard at it. And I knew that I had to work extra hard to be able to get good grades and be successful in school, and it took me longer, and that was okay, right? But students don't necessarily feel that it's okay all the time, right? And I think that that's our job as educators, is to teach students that everybody learns differently, everybody has gifts and talents, they just open those boxes at different times. And so it's just about letting them, I share with them, hey, like, I have dyslexia, I have ADHD, it's hard for me to focus, this is what I do. What helps you? And I just think making sure that every student feels comfortable and confident in the way that they learn, and celebrating the gifts and talents and using those strengths to help them overcome the challenges.
Wow. So for me, I think it's just a matter of letting them know that you care. I think there's a lot of passion that is missing. I think there are a lot of educators who are starting out thinking that, I'm going to get into education because I want to make a difference. And when they get challenged, they kind of fall apart and don't know how to pick themselves back up to be able to deal with that challenge. I think a lot of the students just want to know that you care. And once you show them that you care, I think they can do anything. I mean, I have students who come into my classroom and they're like, I can't draw, I can't do this and everything else like that. And then automatically they want to fall back on some of the, or more like the straightforward things like, I need a ruler to make a straight. I'm like, no, I don't care about your line. I just want to know if you can do a line. And if it's straight, if we're doing mechanical drawing or whenever I want you to do a straight line, I'll hand you a ruler. I said, but for right now, I just want you to be yourself. I just want you to be creative, and I want you to be expressive. You got to be able to express yourself. And I think that's what's lacking a lot today, is that we're not allowing our students to be expressive and be creative because all we were thinking about are those scores. So that's my take.
No, thank you.
Good morning. One of my questions is, how can, let's say, art museums or science centers better partner with schools to continue the creative learning that you are working on?
Okay. I thought the artist was going to take that one first. Okay. So I volunteer at the Museum of Art, and just having the opportunity to see what is available. So for teachers, it would be important if you all were to come to our meetings, because seeing you all in person is a lot more powerful than the handouts that we get stacked up. So we'll know what's most important if people will take the time to come out and just say, hey, here we are, here's how we do it. It doesn't even have to be free, but just let us know that it's available by coming out.
Absolutely. I mean, I love arts integration. I mean, I was just thinking about the last time we were here, Helen and I were here together. We were doing a project with our 8th graders on civil rights, and they interviewed someone who lived during the civil rights movement, and they had to pull a quote from their speech and create a miniature art box. And we use the gallery space here for the students to be able to share, have a space to share their art and share their learning and share the impact of that assignment with the community. And I think offering schools or partnering with schools to provide opportunities for that, for students to be able to show and share their work, is always something that's going to be super powerful for them.
Well, I think for me as an artist and obviously an art educator, I think one of the most important things is to make sure that, like, the resources are there. I think what's lacking is that those resources, that connection to try to get those resources to the schools and to the educators is not there. Like, there's a big gap there. So being able to also make, knowing that museums are fun, and galleries and art spaces are fun. A lot of students, I think that, we're going to the museum, oh my goodness, what are we going to do there? Go look at some artwork or whatever. But there's a lot that you can learn in a museum, and there's so many activities there. So I think that, like what they said, not only like passing out the literature or sending an email or a flyer, but actually coming out, maybe doing an activity or doing a workshop at the school, and then making that connection so that the school can come back to those spaces.
So David, I'm gonna take your picture. That means I want you to come to my school. All right. Just want to make sure.
And I want to just follow up the 3 with just a day in the life of a teacher. They're not going to talk about it, but they arrive very early and they leave very late. And their work is relational. And so normally they're doing work that they're not getting paid for. And so a lot of times their capacity is at capacity. And so I'm glad that you mentioned coming to the school, but I know teachers, they've given their life to that building, and the life outside of that is just their personal family that they're going to. And so the day in the life of a teacher is long, and so if somebody can meet them halfway, I think that would be a powerful exchange.
This isn't exactly a question, but I'm not a teacher in education, but a teacher in life. And so one thing I can tell without even asking the 3 of you that I've heard as you've shared affirmation, the power of affirmation. In my workplace, I learned there's a lot of young people who don't believe in themselves. And so I quickly learned if I could believe in them and affirm that verbally, not just believe it in my mind, speak that to them, the minute they got hold of that, there was no stopping them. And I'm going to give you a world life example, and I might not be invited back. This is my son, who I'm immensely proud of. And he'll kill me later, but when he was young, he didn't want to speak to adults. He wasn't really shy. He was kind of a class clown with peers, but didn't want to speak to adults. I said, Joel, I'm not going to do that for you. I'll be beside you, but you're going to do it. And I've had the pleasure of watching him evolve into speaking before hundreds of people. And so it just goes to show, if we believe in someone and affirm verbally our belief in their ability to overcome whatever they can reach, who knows what potential.
Moms out here not asking questions during the Q&A portion.
Hi, this is my first time at this event, and this is fantastic. So thank you for inviting a teacher to a Saturday event. We can't do Friday mornings. So I just met Fumi and Jackie. They're both new to the area, and we've been talking about a lot of different things. And one of the things that Fumi said is she thinks that parents and the electorate don't know enough about their schools or teachers. So what would you leave these folks with that's really important to you about education right now in the state of North Carolina and in Wake County or Durham?
We'll start with Jose on that.
Start with me now. So I think that the community is very important, right? So as educators, and I know I do this, but I have to get out into the community and I have to see what's going on in the community, and I have to learn that either from being there on purpose and showing up, or making sure that I pick that up from my students. So I like to teach art 50% and then life and social skills the other 50%, because I think it's important. A lot of our students don't know what's going on in the world, let alone they don't know what's going on in their own communities. I was telling Terrence earlier, I had a student like, oh, I've never been to the airport. Not even getting on a plane, but never been to the airport. A lot of these students have never been out of their communities at all. So it's at least for me, I think it's important like to have community events that are going on, or to invite the community in. I know I tell, during the open house, I tell all the parents that come in, anytime you want to stop in and sit in here or watch my class or come learn a lesson with me or with your child, you can come and do it. As long as you get your pass from the office, you can come into my classroom. So I give them that opportunity, and I make sure, like I said, I speak to my students every day. Everybody's different. So you're going to learn different things from the students. I always say I'm the oldest student in the classroom because I'm learning from them every day. And it's important that we make sure that they know that we are actually like hearing them out, not just listening to them, but hearing them out also. I hope that answered a little bit of it.
All right. Well, I feel like as educators and teachers today, we're asked to do so much more with so much less. And we have to get really creative with what we're doing and how we're doing it. But I think inviting the community in to see what you are doing is important. Like, I would love to invite them in to show them our elementary school pit orchestra playing for our dancers in our Nutcracker performance. And like, that doesn't happen in an elementary school, right? But I would want them to see all of the amazing things that my students are doing every single day and the teachers are doing. I want them to go to the Lego League Challenge events and see those students competing and see their smiles and that vibrancy. And then I want to say, like, hey, if you want us to continue to do these things and these great things, then we need to be supported, not only by the state, but by our community and the people that are going to be engaged with these students. I don't know, I feel like we need to get the community in there and see what's happening in public schools.
I'm broke Oprah, I have my own mic. Okay. All right. So for me, I've worked at so many different environments and I've worked at a lot of middle schools, but I feel like the movement of having your meetings among the community has been very helpful. The school where I work at now, we have hosted meetings at Bug. We've hosted meetings at Chavis. A lot of our students at the alternative school are coming from everywhere. So we have to be mindful that they're not necessarily coming back. So in the evening, parents will say to me, I had enough gas to get them there. I don't have enough gas to come to an evening event. You know, real world things that we don't think about. And the other piece of engaging the community is, and parents, is rethinking what engagement looks like. Everyone can't bake cupcakes. No, we all work. So I can't bring you, well, you can't do it anymore for school policy, but I can't bring you homemade cupcakes because I work. But I can cut some things out and send them in. So as a new teacher, I learned very early on what engagement looks like and to value every parent's contribution. And I think that we have to continue to have that conversation with our new teachers. What is engagement is not always me sitting next to you, me responding to your email, phone call, and text, because I'm old school. I'm gonna call your mama, and I'll text them, and I'm walking around talking to your mom, and yes, I work in an alternative school. They can't have their phones, but I have mine. So having that opportunity to continue to invite parents and welcome all the adults in their life to contribute in different ways. I don't think schools and electorates still understand that. We're still stuck on that, and there's nothing wrong with the PTA, nothing wrong with that. But it's important to reimagine and paradigm shift. What does engagement look like? Where does it need to happen? And everyone is valued. Parents are the missing piece. They're that critical piece. And even though as teachers we have the most influence, which studies have shown, they still have to go home to whomever. So we need to engage them in all of the ways, the same way we educate all of the children.
And I just want to say one more thing. I think that we're doing great things in the North Carolina public schools. I think what happens is also that we're just not getting the recognition. So there's not like, oh, let's go see to this school, this school. They're worried about everything else that's going on in the world and not us.
And I want to, again, they're going to be nice in what they say because they care about this work. But public schools have to accept everyone. So even though we have thriving cities, Raleigh's one of the top, Durham was one of the top cities to move to, Cary. When you go to a public school, you see the insecurities of that city. You see the homelessness, you see the hunger, you see the abuse. Schools are the #1 reporter of abuse to child welfare and human services. So as a public school, you see not just the top performing, you have some of the top schools in this county, in the whole country. They rank in the country. That same school is seeing homelessness, hunger. And so there's some needs from the community that can really support these schools, that teachers, they can only deal with what comes into their classroom. So just know that public schools are serving everything, the whole spectrum. And so it's good to just have that scope.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kiara Ruth. I actually serve as the PTA president at my son's school. He goes to Green Elementary. It's Title I, 64% free lunch. And this is kind of a statement and a question. I know that a lot of times with the PTA, it can be off-putting to some parents. And when I first became the PTA president at my son's school, there was a mom who had been in the school for 18 years, and none of the PTA parents had ever approached her and said, hey, would you like to go to coffee? How can I, blah, 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 blah. And so during my term, I kind of made it my mission to approach every black and brown mom in the school, invite them to coffee, let them know, hey, I want to come alongside you when you're in Target or if you're at work. Let me know where you work. I would love to come and support you. And it has been great. I would say one of the barriers that I feel like as a PTA parent, being at a Title I school is people not having time. Or they feel like the PTA is like for a certain type of mom. And so I've just made it my duty to be able to meet parents where they are, tell them that they don't have to be at the school every 5 minutes every day. I created, similar to what you were about the state thing, so we had like a board. The District 6 candidates came and we did a form for them. We invited all the parents. We made sure it was after work. Staff appreciation, we give them an opportunity to be able to send things to school with their kids. And so to you guys, I want to ask, like, as a PTA parent and someone who really cares, I also work, what are better ways that we can have parents be engaged, where it doesn't feel like the PTA is this uppity society, especially in a Title I school, 64% free lunch, that also sits in a neighborhood that is in North Raleigh, and the demographics are changing, but we still have the students who are being bused in.
Well, I love the PTA. I mean, I'm like the first one to join the PTA every year at my school. And the messed up part about it is that it's only $8 a year. And then you still have a lot of teachers who don't want to participate. So as far as, for me, the PTA is doing what they're supposed to be doing, at least at our school. I think one way to, is just to make yourselves more known and to know that you're there as a supportive system. And a lot of teachers don't know that. A lot of parents think, like you said earlier, that, oh, they think that if I join the PTA, that means I got to be at the school all the time. But I think letting them know what the outline and the format is and what their duties may be, I think will help out a lot.
Awesome. I love PTA too. I think one of the things that we did at POW this year that really helped was, and they've done this for years before I got there, but we do a whole school field trip to Marbles, and we partner with Marbles, and we eat a meal together, and we play together, and we make sure that all families are able to get there and included. In the fall, when we have back to school night or curriculum nights, we make sure that, and I guess we have a family engagement committee that is and I'm part of that committee, which I love because that's my jam. I want to get everybody in the community involved. I want to wrap these kids with as much love and support as we can give them, right? But I think having the events where we were doing like a movie night where we can all eat meals together, that we find people to pay for those meals so nobody has to pay for dinner, but they all get to come together, enjoy a meal together, play, learn, provide childcare and support, make it easy for people to be there and be involved. And I think finding those ways to connect with parents and where they are, if they can't make it there, then you go to them, and like you make it happen so that they feel welcome and included. We invite parents to be part of those family engagement committees. We invite them to be part of all of that because the school is for everybody.
Or Ricky Lake or whoever. I'm dating myself now because she's not on TV anymore. Okay, so the same things we talked about. The idea that the people that you're trying to recruit probably don't live in the neighborhood that you mentioned. So having whatever that recruitment event is in one of the community centers that's close by and partnering with the community center would probably be a great way to start, and just have a hook and a better title than PTA meeting. Because sometimes the title is everything. It's what's in the name. And then the other thing is back to that same thing, just reimagining what PTA looks like. And my very first year teaching, this is before I knew better, Dr. Ruth, I said, listen, it's 180 days in school. I need you to come to lunch one time with your child. And if you can't do that, I need you to send someone as a representative. I need you to make a plan to come on one field trip or send a representative. And if you do that, you're a member of the PTA because you're partnering. And if you, as the teachers, and this is a teacher thing, we have to understand that everybody can't change their calendar on a dime. So we all know that you have to turn your field trips in very early. So if that is the case, why not start inviting all of the parents early enough so the people who are hourly or those, whatever that situation, they're also able to participate. So it's kind of like the talk matching the walk. If you want true participation, you have to put those procedures in place that make that possible.
And I've spent my career in alternative schools, which means that my relationship with that student starts when the student is suspended, which means it's very difficult to get parent engagement. It's usually very low. And so there's no PTA at these sort of schools. And so having a community adopt an alternative setting and say, we are going to care for these kids while they're at this location would be creative and helpful as well.
Cool. This is great. You guys, thanks for being extraordinary teachers, including you, Dr. Ruth. Joel read a long list of accolades and things that you've done Terrence. A couple things got left off that I wanted to mention. One is Terrence serves on the board of a Place at the Table, Pay What You Can Cafe. He serves as the president of the board. If you're in town, downtown Raleigh, go check that place out, a great nonprofit. Thank you for serving there. And the second thing that got left off, I know you ran for mayoral candidate in 2022. Terrence is currently running for mayoral candidate this year, so give me your vote. So on to my question, and all of you, I'd love to have you answer. If you had an opportunity to get in front of the person or the governing body or the group of folks that make the decision on pay income for teachers, resources for teachers, what would you say?
Now I'm depressed. I don't want to go first. Go ahead.
I'll be last.
What would I say? I feel like funding needs to go to public schools and not private school vouchers. The end.
I would say teachers in our state have actually been very vocal for many years. We held, probably about 5-6 years ago, it was the largest gathering of teachers in the country, or at least in the history of this state, in downtown Raleigh, around teacher pay. So teachers have been talking about pay for a very long time. What I would include to that conversation is that pay at some point becomes a null conversation. I think flexibility is the second part of that conversation. I have to go back to you, Danny. Danny is a creative. He's free to explore, to engage, to be at different events. Teachers are in that room all day and have to be creative in that room all day, all year. When we know that learning happens everywhere, walking, trips, coffee shops, teachers have the hard job of being creative and vibrant in that same room all year for several years in a row. And to me, I think pay should also include flexibility as well.
Let me make sure I get this question right. You want to know if we were able to speak to people who had their hands on the purse, if you will? Okay. So I think we should be paid like CEOs because we're CEOs. We're nurses. We're counselors. Well, not me, because I'm too truthful to be the counselor. The kids ask me, like, don't ask Ms. Love, I'm not the counselor. I can't make it better. I can't make it sweet. I'm just going to make it plain. So I feel like we're CEOs, and they should pay us accordingly. Also, along with flexibility, is PD should not be us dragging our bags to the lounge cafeteria. I want to go somewhere. There are other people who do professions where they're like, I just came back from Colorado and the training was great. And I'm like, you suck. I just came from downtown. Not this downtown. Wait, let me start over. Central office. That's not where I want my PD to be. So for our flexibility, it would be great if we could also have some better opportunities to travel to bring things into our classroom.
Well, I don't think they will ever pay us enough what we deserve, to tell you the truth. But there has to be some type of system that they know that, we're basically like a kid's second parent, sometimes even their first parent, believe it or not. So they spend a lot of time with us. We get to know them personally, we get to know them socially, and they need to make sure that, they need to start off as like maybe $250,000. And then if we don't do what we're supposed to do, then little by little, they can take away $1 a year, or something like that. But, I think as educators, like somebody said earlier, I think it was you, Megan, we're going to do whatever we have to do. My budget was cut this year, but I'm still going to be able to do what I have to do. And then at the top levels, what they say is they see this, it's like, oh, you know what? They didn't have that budget last year, and they still got it done. So what? So we're not going to give them any money this year again. They'll get it done. Don't worry about them. So somewhere, and I guess this is where the community has to be able to speak up. It's not so much the politicians that are out there, because they're going to do whatever they want to do. But if we, protest and do whatever we got to do as a community, and the parents really get involved, then I think maybe we'll see some change.
Give it up for our speakers and our panel. We're over time, but I'm going to steal the final last question and ask it in the form of a hot take, because we don't have much time left. So I don't, necessarily follow all the generational trend stuff, but it is important to be aware that, this generation, you guys are teaching students that have dealt with a different kind of crises, and that happens through sort of every generation. So the hot take is this: what is the greatest strength of the students that are coming through your classrooms right now that we can expect to see sort of entering our world in the next decade?
Okay. I would say resiliency. They're surviving something that we have not. And to quote Saturday Night Live, COVID broke something that teachers can't fix. So that they're resilient. The fact that they come to school every day, even when we don't want them to, we celebrate that. And they will have stories to tell that no other generation will from going through COVID.
I would say creativity. Hands down, creativity. They are more creative and innovative than I have seen students in years. I think that they are outside the box thinkers and problem solvers, and I'm really glad that this generation of students is going to be taking care of me later.
I would say their willingness to learn. They're so passionate about somebody caring for them and someone being able to teach them things. So I think that, their mindsets is like, man, if you just show me that you care, I'll do what I got to do. So for me, that's that.
And for me, I'm normally seeing students after they get to college. So I'm at NC State. And so I'm seeing students who are no longer living to work. Work to them is not the end goal. And so it's hard to employ people now, because it's like the salary doesn't mean anything. They want to live. And when I was growing up, you lived to work. You talk about your career, your salary. This generation, that's not the main conversation.
Amazing. Thank you all. Thank you so much for coming to today's event. Give it up again for our teachers, and thank you to all the teachers that came to today's event as well.